What's up, y'all? TBrown31 here with JaboctheGreat. Welcome back to another episode of The Last Word. Huge weekend in the NFL this past weekend, especially in the NFC, most notably with the Lions losing their first game since the beginning of the season to the Buffalo Bills. This one ended up another shootout. If you would, 48-42 Bills get the win. And really the storyline of this game, man, that Bills offense, Josh Allen, the running game was great. They did their thing. Lions defense got run over, got passed over, and they are getting pretty much put on IR at this point. Also, Dave Montgomery's out. Lions just their second loss of the season, but it's a little bit rough with all these injuries and that defense. Just overall their play.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions couldn't have had a worse week here. I mean, you put up 42 points and a loss. The Bills didn't miss a beat. I mean, the Bills drives, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. They miss a field goal, half ends, touchdown, one punt, and then touchdown, field goal, and the game's over. Lions caught fire in the second half. We're a little too slow to catch up. It was 14-7 before the Lions could really kind of blink in this one. But the injuries are a problem, right? You come out of this game and you only have two losses. We said it last week that this loss probably wouldn't mean too much there. Particular playoff spot, they should be mostly okay. But it is a little bad because you come out of this with no David Montgomery. Your defense is pretty injured. You're looking at a really tough situation because the people that are closest to clinching their spots, right? The Vikings are now the same record as you. They could actually steal the one seed from you, right? You've got the playoffs clinched. Don't have the one seed clinched. Eagles could steal it from you. And the Packers could potentially get up there and get themselves a spot in. So Lions, maybe a little more catastrophic here than we thought it would be because of the loss of Montgomery and because how many defensive players are out. So should be they have a team that could definitely still make a playoff run. Obviously, they still put up 42 points. You know, at a certain point, they started rolling. Jared Goff, 500 passing yards, 5 touchdowns. Not like a terrible life is over situation, but a lot of injuries that are really making the future look a little bleak, especially as their own division kind of tools up against them.
Yeah, man. On the flip side, that game with the Eagles and the Steelers, another game that we ended up picking wrong here. Eagles, they look pretty good against the Steelers. I mean, Steelers made it the game for just a little bit, but for the most part, Eagles came out, had a pretty dominant win, 27-13 against Pittsburgh. And now they're, right along with the Lions. Lions still have the tiebreaker over the Eagles as of right now. And they don't play each other this season. They haven't played each other yet. They won't play each other. So it's going to come down to conference record, all that kind of stuff. So with that being said, I see a lot of people saying the Eagles are now the best team in the NFC. I mean, fair. They have the same record, and they looked better, obviously, on Sunday against. I would say, the Steelers are a notch below the Bills right now, but still against a pretty good team. They looked much better, obviously, didn't allow 40-something points. So considering you don't have the opportunity to play the Eagles, Lions should probably be concerned about that because, the tiebreaker might be out of your control.
Yeah, I think that is a really good point, right? The Lions don't have any control over that one seed destiny, and the Eagles have been on fire, for the same amount of time the Lions have been. But clearly now, the Lions' fire went out for a week. Eagles keep rolling. I think most impressively, right, they didn't allow 40 points from the Steelers offense, who has proven that it can put up 40, but probably not going to happen. They also, they had no issue scoring against the Steelers defense, which is impressive, right? They kept it going, 27-13. That typically staunch Steelers defense, which still did recover 2 fumbles from the Eagles. Just wasn't able to put up a whole lot of resistance, and the Eagles kind of have what they wanted with them. So a great team to come out and kind of prove yourself as one of the top NFC people after week after week, I guess, of some pretty tough matchups. This is the toughest defense I think that they could have hit at this particular point. So I think this is a really impressive one, and I think it should cause a little bit of concern for the Lions.
And this next game, Packers, Seahawks, Sunday Night Football, you did pick this one right. I picked this wrong. I thought the Seahawks would come out and at least contend, look competent. I know Geno got hurt and everything later on, but it was really just never a game. I mean, Josh Jacobs came out really strong in this one. Packers win 30-13. And obviously the Packers have already lost to the Lions twice. So unfortunately, I mean, it's going to be a lot harder for them to possibly get back up there. Now they do play the Vikings in 2 weeks, and the Vikings do play the Lions. So should the Vikings lose those games, they happen to also play the Seahawks this weekend. Should the Vikings lose those games, and then the Packers, win out, then you have a scenario where the Packers would be ahead as long as they don't end up tied with the Lions. So they position themselves pretty well there. And on the other side, the Seahawks got knocked out of the playoffs just like that. So that West right now is definitely crazy competitive. I mean, even the Cardinals are 7-7. Niners are probably out of it. Just lost to the Rams, who are leading right now. Technically not eliminated though, but it's really a 3-team race, and these teams are only a game apart overall. So definitely gonna be tight out there in the West, and definitely tight in the North.
Yeah, this one was a weird game. Geno Smith couldn't really get it together. I mean, he had a good passing ratio, but wasn't really playing super great football. And then he goes down. Sam Howell comes in and goes 5 for 14 for 24 yards
Oof.
and a pick. Yeah, really terrible. 14.6 QBR or rating, 3.3 QBR. We don't usually bring up those stats here, but when they're that bad, I think it's pretty worth mentioning. He just did not really add a whole lot to the Seahawks team. I think a lot of Seahawks fans were thinking, maybe it's time to look beyond Geno after the way this game started. And I think Sam Howell said, maybe Geno is not so bad. But for the Packers, I think they did a big thing to come out and keep themselves alive in the NFC North picture, right? Because the Lions and Vikings are both already clinched for the playoffs. Obviously, they're all in that battle for the 1 seed. They're 12-2. Same with the Eagles. The Vikings, I think, have the issue of having played the Eagles. Or maybe that's wrong. I might be thinking of previous years. But the Packers, nonetheless, need to stay in that fight, right? They need to stay up in that, kind of in that realm with those teams. They should make the playoffs, but they do have a shot to fight for a higher seed. Maybe get a little bit more of a bye if they can get up there in the upper ranks of that division. The issue for the NFC North this year is that everyone's going. So somebody's got to be the 6th seed. Somebody's got to be 5th seed. Could be a 7th seed if the Commanders can get up there. And so they put some good distance between themselves and the Commanders team, who almost lost to the Saints after putting it on them early. So Packers did a good job coming out there. Josh Jacobs looked unstoppable. I don't know, something about when I see the Seahawks in those light green uniforms, I become less sympathetic to their cause. I don't know what it is about those like neon uniforms, but happy at I almost went 0-4. I know you did go 0-4, so I'm not gonna rub too much salt here. But I'm happy to have gotten one pick right. This was a tough week.
And it might be a tough week for Seattle. Of course, I mentioned they play the Vikings, who just beat the Bears. Obviously, they're far and away the worst team in the NFC North. Unfortunately for them, after having such a good start, but nothing was too surprising about what happened in this game. They get the dub, Monday Night Football 30-12, and yeah, the Vikings had not played the Eagles, so ironically, the Eagles do not play either the Lions or the Vikings this season, but they did play the Packers in Week 1, of course, in Brazil. Got that dub. So obviously, you're not going to have that head-to-head tiebreaker, like I mentioned, to determine any of these playoff spots. As far as who gets that one bye and home field advantage for the rest of the playoffs. So the last 3 weeks are going to be pretty important, especially look at that Viking schedule. I mean, Seahawks, Packers, then Lions. That one, that's always going to be determined as far as the scheduling. But I imagine if both teams continue to win at least the next 2 weeks, or if the Lions lose a game for some reason here, I don't think they'll lose to the Bears or the Niners. So if both teams keep winning, which will probably happen, they'll be playing for that division at the end of the season. So that one is definitely going to be a pretty good game to look forward to.
That's a fun one to have, kind of like sitting at the end of the year. Obviously, it's got to be determined because they want to see how that can match up for playoff stuff. And I think you said it. This kind of was a textbook win, right? Like Sam Darnold gets 230 yards, Aaron Jones gets 86 rushing yards. He has a big day, touchdowns for him. Justin Jefferson gets in the end zone with 73 yards. I mean, everything kind of goes exactly how you would expect the Vikings game to go. They recover a fumble from Caleb Williams. So big moves from them to come out and keep themselves alive in this playoff picture, and really not alive, but kind of up there. And funny enough, they actually clinched the previous day on Sunday with the rest of the football games being played. I can't remember which loss put them in the playoffs, but it put them in. And then for some reason, the NFL double posted or not the NFL, but like Bleacher Report posted again, like Vikings clinched after they won, but they had already been clinched. They were fine sitting at at 11-2 before they won that game. But they need to stay definitely on their A game. As the Lions, the last 3 games, Bears, Niners, Vikings could be tough. The Niners could be a problem. The Bears have not been a problem in the last 8 weeks. They went from 4-2 to 4-10. It's a pretty tough way to fall. But they just need to, I think, kind of get their coaching staff together. The Vikings, though, have got to go through a much tougher thing. Like you said, Seahawks, I mean, haven't had the best season, so Vikings should be able to make easy work of them. But then you get the Packers and the Lions. Those games are big. Those are important. They struggled with the Packers the first time. They lost to the Lions the first time. Actually, the same score. Beat the Packers 31-29, lost to the Lions 31-29. So need to reverse one of those outcomes if they want to try to steal the 1 seed. But I don't really see the Lions dropping as much. So for the Vikings here, it's just put enough space between you and the Packers to maybe not be the 6 seed, unless you prefer the lower number. But NFL teams don't usually tank, especially for lower playoff spots. That's people are always talking about why is this team winning games, because that's what they're paid to do. So I think the Vikings will probably lock in. I don't really see them dropping the Seahawks or Packers game, but I do think they could probably have an issue with that Lions game at the end of the season.